Here is a short version of what you need to do.
Oh, fuck! No! What the?
Ah!
Oh my god. Ah! And then I go around the corner and...
Let me call to my racing expert.
You're shit pilot. Yes, you're shit.
No, this is the wrong one.
Some of these fast pilots, they fly 6S, they fly 5S. I got 1S. Freestyle sucks. DJI's for wieners.
What the f? Let me call to my grease expert.
If you think it's grease that's going to make you faster, there's no better grease out there than some made from real Texas barbecue.
You gonna drink it?
If it makes me faster. Okay, where's my radio?
If you want your quad fly really fast, first, you have to throw your quad really hard. I'll show you right now. Did you see? That quad wiggle really fast.
So this is my mouse cursor, and this is where we should try to click. It's not moving, guys. Like, I'm trying really hard. You see, it's not... Oh, it moved a little bit, but... Let me call my motivation expert.
Hello, Mr. Nice Success Advisors.
What if I try, but I just cannot?
Well, you just need to try harder. Yep, just try harder. You just need to try harder.
Let's try again. Hey, Neil?
Hello?
I tried very hard, I still cannot do it.
Either you try harder, or you just quit like a little pussy. The decision you make is going to say a lot about you as a person.
What's up, guys? We are live, FPV Spill the Tea, number 5, and today we have a special guest. This is Chris Thompson. In case you didn't know, he is MultiGP owner and MultiGP creator, and MultiGP is the biggest drone racing league in the world. We have a lot of spicy questions for him, right? Some of the most spicy ones we're gonna leave for the end. But there we go, Mr. Neil. How would you introduce Chris?
Well, I think you did a good job to start, but yeah, Chris Thomas, owner, creator, mastermind, evil mastermind, some could say, behind MultiGP. He's here on the stream with us. It's a timely add to the list. You know, we've had him on our list for a couple of weeks as somebody we wanted to see on. And then with all the ticket gate, we'll call it, with our latest scandal, it seemed appropriate to have him on this week. So here we are. And I think, you know, as we dive into what's going on with MultiGP and past, present, and future, and then we'll maybe dive into a couple of our favorite scandals and then see where we land from there. So I think it'll be a good time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me to your event. You've been to plenty of mine, so it's only appropriate we turn the tables a little bit. And there's been lots of gates at MultiGP, both racing gates. There's been the Able gate. There's been, every time there's some sort of gate assigned. I've heard Sloth Gate is the most common reference to this ticket issue, but who knows? Yeah, time will tell what it is.
Yeah, we get like this was Mr. Neil's decision to talk about tickets problem a little bit later in the live stream.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mr. Neil, what was the first question we want to cover with Mr. Chris?
Oh, let's see. Well,
that's a lot of questions.
First, Chris, just tell us a bit about yourself, and then how you got started in drones before, and then carry that into how'd you create MultiGP?
Okay. I've been a nerd my entire life, like most of us in this industry.
Yep.
I was a entrepreneur, started a couple of different businesses, a roofing company, an inspection company, and I really enjoyed flying drones. At one time, I was flying a Phantom from the passenger seat of a drift car way before FPV was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in a video that I made, it linked me to something showing drone racing. So that was sort of the transition of how I discovered drone racing. That was late 2014. Immediately, I said, that's really cool. I want to buy that. I want to buy one of those. So through searching around, I found some local RC guys in my area. Hefty was one of them. You guys remember Hefty?
Oh, Hefty. Yep.
And, I met him at a park where they were flying FPV. So after listening to them talk for a while, I said, okay, where can I buy that? And they said, you can't. It's like, yes, I can. I have money. I will buy it. I want to buy the thing that you have. I want one of those. So they went on to explain about how you have to build them, and then you have to buy the frame and everything else. So, long story short, I convinced one of them to sell me one of their drones. And
good call.
That's how I got started, right? This was back in the day when you would put zip ties on the arms so that way they'd land softly. We had tilted motor mounts, which at one point I guess people thought was a good idea.
Yeah, that was a hype at some point.
Yeah,
you go faster with tilted motors. Now we're trying to go slower, right?
Well, it did help originally because we didn't have tilted camera mounts, right? So the tilted motors, did kind of help a little bit. So the local guys were having their first drone racing event. Actually, if you see on my camera back there, come on, I can do this right here. Those are the cards from the very first drone racing event that I have.
Oh, wow.
And I showed up thinking they're the experts, right? The race was going to be at 10 o'clock. So I show up at 9. Nobody's there. About 10 o'clock, one of the guys shows up. First race happens at noon. I don't know anything about this. Right. They had a race. I set my quad out for the race. They say go. I hit the switch to arm. It won't arm. I have no idea. I have no clue as to what's going on. So instead, I just, rode along with one of the other pilots on the track, and it was awesome. Just the spectator, just riding around the track, switching channels between the two pilots because everybody crashed but 2 guys, and just changing cameras. I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. A couple of hours later, they had the second race, and then that was it. That was the whole day. So I was so ignorant to this whole thing. I thought it was going to hurt someone's feelings when I tried to very nicely ask if they wouldn't mind me organizing the race next weekend. Like I thought I was going to offend someone or they would be very territorial. They were really happy to let me organize the race next weekend. So the next weekend, I got a bunch of people out, and they passed out those cards back here, the ones I can't seem to point at. And everyone put their quads on the line, and it was terrible. Like everyone tried to take off. Nobody could see anything. They crashed everywhere. It was the worst drone race ever. So I spent that whole week.
They're down low.
So I spent that whole week working on like how
I'm
to
looking
make
at
it work.
I'm looking at the hammer.
Oh yeah, you need one of those. So I spent the whole week working on it, and a few weeks later, I finally figured it out. And really, that's when it all clicked, and drone racing really got started for me.
Okay. Huh.
You like the collection
that's
back
awesome.
there?
Yeah, look at all these radios too.
So then it went from like you went to a race, then you asked next weekend to organize that race. How did you take that from that to like, hey, we're going to make these chapters and we're going to build this grassroots organization and we're going to have a championship? Like, how'd you go from I'm going to organize next weekend to we're going to build a league?
Sure. So I was, for me, I just wanted to race drones. So every weekend I'd run a race, we'd have a race, run a race, have a race. Very quickly, I realized that if one of the other groups nearby, because there was a group coming to us from Orlando, if they would run races, and maybe one weekend they run it, and the next weekend I run it, then I could race both weekends, but only have to set up half as many races. Right. So that's sort of where the chapter model got figured out. I did that, and then I met a group down in south of me, south of Florida. And so the same thing, if they would run a weekend, I'd run a weekend, Orlando would run a weekend. We could get drone racing going better there. At the time, I also had a roofing company. I still have a roofing company in Dallas. So on one of my trips to Dallas, I scheduled to meet with some guys there and have a race. It was to, just participate. That's where I met Adam KK.
Yeah.
Or said, I don't know if you know those guys.
Oh yeah.
And we had a race out there. They whooped me so bad. Like Adam was so good back then. But then that helped to get Dallas on the map as well. I met James, who was a guy down in San Antonio. And so everything was going really smooth. I was just sort of doing it as a aggressive hobby. That was it. That was about the limit. There was no plans of like US chapters everywhere. It was just, I was sort of building what I needed to support my own hobby. So if I was in Dallas, I could race with a group in Dallas. If I was at home, I could race any weekend. It wasn't until I went to an event called Drone Nationals in California, and I met pilots from all over the world, that I got so pissed off at these guys who were trying to run drone racing that I made it a full-time gig. They had brought in a lot of money, a lot of sponsors, and they had made a lot of promises. They brought in pilots from all over the world, and they really, in my opinion, didn't seem to care very much for the experience of the pilots. Like when we first got there, everyone was just sort of sitting around. And I got involved from the very beginning, even though I bought a ticket as a VIP, and just started running the races. So for days, I ran races for these other people's event. And later on, the person who started it, this guy named Scott, he comes over to relieve me, and they did. But a couple minutes later, here comes a news reporter interviewing the person who relieved me, and acting like he had been running this thing the whole time. Like I didn't want the credit, but I also didn't like them taking advantage of me contributing my time. So that really motivated me to just not let that be what drone racing would become. I didn't want it to be just one big championship. I wanted there to be drone races everywhere. I wanted there to be drone races in every local city and every local field, because I figured if enough people did this sport, it could become a really big sport.
Yeah, well, that's what we want. That's what we want for sure.
So, and I've heard something, like we talked about this with you, Chris, maybe like 5 years ago or something. Aren't you the guy who figure out that like we need to do something with the frequencies, and like you figure out this IMD 6C sequence, right?
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that I came up with the IMD 5, like calling it that and encouraging people to use it in the IMD 6 and B and C. But that was based on already known information regarding harmonics and things like that. Because if you get two 5/8 channels, they create a third like ghost channel. And so if you pick certain channels, they wouldn't create those ghost channels, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, that was just through trial and error. So when I started, and that's what those cards are back here. These are the channel cards that they would give out, and you would take one of the channel cards and you would fly. But the first thing that I did is those channel cards had about like 7 or 8 channels you could be on. So if you had the A card, you could choose from 7 or 8 channels. The B card, 7 or 8 channels.
Oh, wow.
So the first thing that I did is I said 200 milliwatt limit, which at the time people said, there's no way that's not enough power. I need more power. Like, no, trust me, you don't. And you have to be on this channel. Like you don't get to choose from 7 or 8 channels. It has to be 5800 or whatever the channel was. So we started that. And at first, 4 pilots was the limit. People are like, there's no way you can do more than 4 pilots. So just through trial and error, we figured out if you put the drones, if you never let the drones get too close and you put them at a far enough distance and you run a low enough power, you can easily get 5. I mean, in 2016, we ran 16 pilots on 5.8 to prove that it can be done.
Like,
do you think we'll ever be able to do that again?
We could.
Yeah.
You could do it right now if pilots would be willing to stop using those shitty little antennas. Like those little antennas that everyone uses, they're all garbage. Yep. Every single one of them is garbage.
Like, what about this? Like this antenna
garbage.
you're talking about? Let me see.
Garbage.
Ivan. Like this is a little garbage. Antenna, or
all of them are garbage.
Well, this is considered the big size for these days for drone racing because people running like smaller. All right.
I guess because it's still a PCB,
Fox here.
Right? Like all the little.
Oh, you need like a little clover
like
antenna.
An actual clover antenna is what everybody had back in the day.
Neil has a giant clover right there on the wall.
Yeah, all hanging on the wall over here. There's
it's like a this size clover.
Oh yeah, because I started on 1.3 and they're giant.
I've got one back here.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a real 5.8 antenna.
And that's like a real clover inside.
Yeah, that's a real antenna. I mean, because if you have a good enough antenna, you will polarize the signal so that way, if a right-handed signal gets picked up by a left-handed antenna, it's so much lower, it's less likely to cause interference.
Interesting. So, building on that, knowing that all of today's antennas are garbage, why does polarization even matter anymore if we're all using these garbage antennas?
I mean, it always matters, right? So let's imagine your receiver is like a bucket, right?
Okay.
And that your house is flooded and the bucket is empty. When the water gets too high, the water goes into the bucket. So when the other channels beside are too loud, they overwhelm your receiver. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Whenever you polarize the signal, so if someone's really using a right-handed signal and you have a left-handed antenna, this signal will be low. It'll be weaker. The better the polarization, the weaker the left hand, right hand differences are, right? So like you filter out more of right hand signals, the better the polarization is of the broadcasting antenna. So, and it's all about what the drone itself is broadcasting out. What you're receiving, and the reason like video's gotten better is because people are building better receivers. But if you still use better transmission antennas, it would make things even better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we got a question from the chat from Heart of America FPV. I believe it's Mr. Sean, and he says like knowing all the science with the harmonics and the cross interference, why we are using race band now?
So it goes back to the quality of available receivers. Even though there are harmonics that exist, you're limited in the legal spectrum as to what radio signals you can use. And so if you're going to put 8 drones up, you don't really have a lot of options. And the receivers now, so even when you create that ghost signal, it is weaker than the signals that create it. So like, let's say that you have a power of 10 and another signal at a power of 10, the interference signal is only a power of 5. So if that receiver is good enough to block out a signal at the power of 5, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So our receiving technology, thank people like, Trappy and Tony, like they're better receivers that you can now purchase, are the reasons why video has gotten better.
Yeah, I think so. Barnwell has a nice video about how you can fly with a lot of, or with like 2, 3, 4, 5 pilots up. He also talks about like DJI, HD0, and all this stuff. But he missed that point that Chris just told to us, that it's not only about how far you are from other pilots, but it also like which of these ghost signals you're creating on other channels. So for example, if you're flying on raceband 1, someone is flying on raceband 2, and then this ghost signal is being created on raceband 3 because it's like about the distance. So raceband 1, raceband 2, you like subtract raceband 1 with raceband 2 and add it to raceband 1, and that's where the ghost ghost interference is being created.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools. You can find multiple tools available on the internet where you can say, here are the frequencies we're using, what channels would have interference, and it'll tell you where, how that occurs. That's how I designed those. Like when I came up with those IMD channel selections, I just found one of those tools and just kept putting in different frequencies that were available to find what the best fit would be. But once you get to 8 pilots, you really don't have a choice. You're going to run in with race band. You're going to run into those problems. It's also very easy to say, you're on channel 4, you're on channel 6, you're on channel 8, as opposed to saying, you need to be on this setting. And we've evolved with that. When we were first started, most of the video transmitters had little tiny dip switch settings on them, and you had to have a little pick. And you had to have a card, or you have to have it memorized. I get to the point where for most of the video transmitters, it's like, oh, that's a 5808. You need to be up, up, down, down, up on your little switch settings, just because we did it so much. And the early cards that we have, I've got these cards that we would hand you, and it had all the switch settings for the most popular video transmitters that we used to use.
Yeah, I think also back in the days, it was like this IMD was way more important because like VTXs were not consistent. So you can buy a VTX and then it's suddenly like 5 milliwatts, and then the other VTX like 500 milliwatts, and that's where IMD is way more. Now race band, everyone's pretty much consistent unless you're running secret power output, I guess.
Yeah, you also have video transmitters that literally people get them wet, they hit them against rocks, they hit them against metal conduits, they bend their antennas back into shape, and then they wonder why they're not working like they're supposed to.
Yeah, so Chris Thomas, I don't know, should we, like, this is one of the spicy topics, spicy question, should we move on to the hammer story? And since we're talking about the...
Sure.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, we're in history. Let's talk about history.
I think that was a question from John, right? Let's see. So John having a weird setup today, so we can hear him live, but I think his delay from us is like 10 seconds or something. Let's see, John, can you like formulate the question about the hammer? We're just staring at John.
Yes, so we all remember hammer gates. That was one of the first gates that we had here.
The stream
After
can hear
hearing
John,
what actually
but we cannot
happened,
hear John.
All right, let's practice
So
our
that
lip
doesn't do us
reading.
any good.
Okay, what is my favorite type of hammer?
Right.
When building, I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, well, Chris, so back at the first IO. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, back at the first IO. That was IO number 1, right?
That was
I
IO
remember
number
it. I was IO number 1. That was I was late coming to that IO. I didn't get there until Friday night. But there was a big problem. Everybody's got to be here on there it is right there. Everybody's got to be here. Oh my God, so good. Everybody's got to be here on 25 milliwatt in order to make it happen. And and then something happened. There needed to be enforced. So I don't know. Take us through. How we got there.
Well, so first of all, IO at the time, right? 8 tracks at one location. Everyone said that's not going to work. That was pretty much the consensus from most people, is it wasn't going to work. So it was a major undertaking. Before that, the biggest we had done is we'd done an event with 3 tracks. This was 8 tracks. We needed 8 volunteer teams. We needed 8 different, race setups. And even some of the people on the MultiGP team said, I don't think it's going to work, Chris. It's not going to work. And I said, it's going to work. As long as everyone's on 25 milliwatts, we won't have any problems. So there was a race director, probably one of my biggest haters in the whole FPV world to this day. I've had him blocked in Facebook and stuff for so long. I don't see his posts, but I still know he's a hater. A guy named Troy McQuinn was running that freestyle track at the time. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was in charge of that track, because I remember every time I'd come over there, I would have to check in. So I would be roaming around this track, just trying to make sure everything's going good, right? Because IO wasn't sure. Everyone's panicked, doesn't think the video is going to work. I'd get a radio call. Hey, we're seeing the freestyle track. We're seeing the freestyle track from all the other
freestylers.
All right. So I'd go over there and I would see the guys. Listen, guys, someone over here is running 200 milliwatts. I need to know who blah, blah, blah person is. And it was this person. And so I'd go and I'd talk to them, and I'd talk to Troy and just tell them, look, you gotta follow the rules. So I left. About 30 minutes later, same problem. I come back and I'm frustrated. And I said, look, guys, I don't know who's doing it. I don't care who it is, but the rules are 25 milliwatts. So I'm going to take this hammer. And if I come back here and someone's over 25 milliwatts, I'm going to smash your drone with the hammer. I don't care who it is. And I left and I told everybody on the radio, all my volunteers, I'm going to smash their drone with a hammer. I left. I got another call. I went back and I gave them one more warning. I probably shouldn't have even given the one warning, because I think this time it was Mr. Steele. But I said, listen, I am dead serious. I am not joking around. You guys are going to ruin this event. And so whoever it is, I'm going to come over here with this hammer. I'm going to smash your drone. So I leave. And then I get a phone call for 2 tracks at the same time. One of them is where the Street League track was this year. Okay. This guy, there was corn growing along the edge. Mm-hmm. And this pilot, his video went out and his quad just launched off into the corn. I don't even know if he found it. And then what are the other tracks? Same thing happened. Like clear as day, they could see someone else. So I get in my golf cart, and the golf carts aren't that fast at IO. I mean, it's a big place. It's a long drive.
It's very big.
So from wherever I was to that track, I'm riding over, and I'm mentally preparing myself. Like, I got to just do it. Whoever it is, I got to it doesn't matter. I can't be choosy. I got to figure out whose it is and just take their drone, and I got to smash it. Because what else am I going to do at this point? This whole event's going to fail.
You said you were going to do it.
I told everybody. Hey, guys, I'm on my way over to the track. I'm going to smash some of these drones with a hammer. So I get over there. And I remember all the Rotor Riot guys were there. Tommy, who was like the coolest, man. Tommy's like the hype man. He's like, yeah, man, get it. He's hyping me up, which doesn't help. Right. So I'm over there and I remember walking up and I was like, who was it? And this kid comes over and I don't know him. And he sort of just kind of shakes his head and he hands it to me with a smile on his face. And I snatched it out of his hand and I didn't want to look at him in the eyes. I don't want to lose the nerve. Right? So I walk out, I put it down on the table. I give a little bit of a speech. I mean, you've seen the video, right? And I have that hammer and I hit it the first time. And honestly, I've never hit a quad with a hammer before, and I'm on a table. I didn't want to just absolutely decimate it. I don't want to break the table, but I wanted to damage the drone enough where it's this ain't going to happen again. I hit it the first time and it didn't even do anything to the quad. So I hit it again. And then at that point, I remember the standoffs had smushed down and the camera was flat. And then I just left. I just left the track and I told everybody I smashed the drone. Well, so that happened. And apparently the internet just started going crazy and I'm not paying attention. I'm running the largest drone race in history that no one thinks is possible. I really don't care what's happening on the internet right now. I did look at my phone at one point. There was 74 private messages. It was kind of going crazy. Right. I'm getting phone calls from people telling me, hey, we got to do something about this right now. We're working the track. And I tell them, we don't have to do anything. We have to finish this event. We have this event. The event is the priority. The president, a guy named Todd at the time, was all worried about the press. Oh, what are we going to do? We're going to run this race. We got to finish IO. People on site, they were laughing about it. They were like, hey, smash my drone. They thought it was funny. So the later the day, I get a phone call from Todd. I'm like, what, Todd? I was doing something. He goes, hey, you need to go down to the AMA. Well, I can't. We're running a race. He goes, the president the president of AMA wants to talk to you. All right, great. I don't have time for this. I'm driving in the golf cart. I'm kind of mad driving in the golf cart down to the headquarters of the AMA. I go in this big meeting room, and it's one of those really nice meeting tables, extremely long. I look at those tables and I go, how did they get this table in this room? Because it's just giant. And he walks over and he goes like, Chris, what's this? And he throws the drone on the table. I said, oh, that's a drone. I smashed it with a hammer. Just very matter of fact. because my event, and I assume he doesn't know anything about drone racing. Like, I get he's a supporter, where it's all good, but with respect, drone racing is not flying model airplanes. These things crash all the time. He's like, Chris, we don't do this at the AMA. We don't smash aircraft with hammers at the AMA. And I said, but you got to understand what's going on here, Dave. There's video issues and everything else. He goes, do you even know whose drone this is? I said, no, I don't. I don't know whose it is. He goes, it's Dylan's. Okay. Well, Dylan should follow the rules of 25 milliwatt. Do you know who Dylan is, Chris? And no, I don't know who Dylan is. He works here. And he was on his lunch break. Oh.
Poor Dylan.
Oh, wow. I felt bad. I felt really bad. I mean, I didn't feel bad about doing it. I felt bad that it happened to be like what are the odds? That's like the winning the lottery, but the opposite. Because Dylan was just on his lunch break.
Yeah.
Right. He was just out like, hey, there's some drone pilots. He's like the only guy in the AMA at the time who's into drones. Right. The rest of them are all airplanes. So he just happens to sneak out for a couple of minutes for lunch.
It's coming back then.
I felt bad.
His shit smashed in. Wow.
So I said, call him in here. And he's like, he's too mad. I was like, just call him in here, man. Just call him in here. And he calls in. I'm like, oh man, Dylan, I'm sorry, man. Like, we've got rules and you weren't following them. And what was happening? And he's like, well, I was just, I had met you before and you just were there. And I was like, oh, I remember just like this problem in my head running through it. And I said, I tell you what, here's what I'll do. Do me a favor and don't tell anybody this. Okay. I don't know if I've ever told the story. Sorry, Dylan, if you're listening right now. I went out to my car and I had a brand new drone I had just built and I not even flown it yet. And I just gave it to him. I said, don't tell anybody I gave this to you though. Right. Because I didn't want people to be like, oh, it's fine. If he smashes your drone, you'll get a brand new one. Right. I wanted people to follow the video transmission rules. And, after that, I totally get why he would have been irritated. I would too. Right. I'm on lunch break. I was just coming to visit your thing. If those are your rules, why aren't they placarded up better? Right. So, that was the hammer situation.
That was the Hammergate. Well, it worked. I'll tell you, as somebody on my way to the event, I couldn't get there till Friday night because I was at a trade show. But I was going from the trade show straight to Indianapolis, so I had all my gear already with me. And when I got to the hotel that night, after seeing it blow up online, I was pretty sure that I already had all my quads on 25 milliwatts, getting ready for IO, but I plugged them all in and checked them that night in the hotel before I even flew in Indianapolis because I was like, this is serious. This guy's out there smashing quads. I'm going to be on 25 milliwatt for sure. So,
honestly, I as bad as I feel for having done that to somebody who was sort of an innocent, victim, it really did establish very clear etiquette. Like, you better be on 25 milliwatts. I mean, I would see people walk up to the line and do one of these. They plug in and unplug real quick and look around and then plug back in. They were paranoid.
So we got yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the only the terrible part about it for me is for years after that I would be just driving stakes in because it's a lot of work to set up a gate, and I have so many people filming me, hitting, and the paranoia that I'm gonna hit my hand while they're filming me. That was always annoying. I went to Dallas right after that, and these two people walked by and they're like, "Oh, can we get a picture with you?" And they took my picture, and then as I hear them walking away, like, "You know that is, right?" And they said, "Who?" "That's the hammer guy." That's it. Right here I am, dedicated years of my life to this sport, and they're taking a picture from that incident.
Man, like I've heard the part of this story, but this is like a full picture. So I'm wondering, who was that guy who handed you this quad? Because I thought that's the guy that was himself, but that's like, so he just gave you someone else's quad?
No, it was his quad.
Oh, I see.
He's fully compliant. Hey, who was it? It was me, right? It was me. I did it. He had no idea. No one had told him. No one had warned him at that track. Hey, this is serious, right? He had just showed up for his lunch break, plugged his quad in, flew it one pack, landed, got it smashed by a hammer by the drone racing guy.
Oh man, I'm this is a great video. I'm gonna show it again. Like I don't know. Like I wish we had like more of it. Maybe I should do a better job googling. But if you actually go to Google now and search Chris Thomas MultiGP hammer, like you'll have like Reddit post and some Facebook posts about it. This is hilarious. So like, do you have so as of now, what was that? Is like 6 years later? Do you like regret doing that?
I mean, there's no poor purpose really. No point in regretting anything. I tell you what, the hardest part was when I talked to Josh from Flight Test, and he goes, "Chris, I'm really disappointed." I was like, "Oh, that was the worst," because he's such a big part of the community of bringing people together in RC. So like that was the one, like feeling like I disappointed this legacy that guy had been working so much on was a big hit for me. But no, I don't think so. I didn't hurt a person. I hurt a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. And the amount of carnage that I've seen in drone racing, if I'm going to get sympathetic when I see a drone crash, I need to probably just commit myself to an asylum right now.
Yeah, we break a lot of stuff for sure. Yeah. Well, just like ringing in from the chat, Kevin Turner, we love you, man, with the super chat.
Yeah, thank you. 99.
Yeah, ouch, Josh Bixler. Being disappointed would be a dagger to the heart for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that. I understand that one. Yeah, such a nice guy there.
Let's do a quick Johnny 5 latency test. Johnny 5, tell us when you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, yeah. So like it's like about 10 seconds latency. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we keep moving to our next questions, right?
Yeah. So let's see. Well, Chris, like, how much does it cost to run MultiGP in a year?
Depends on the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this. I've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. There have been some years have been more expensive than other years.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it's usually cost me money every year.
Yeah.
Usually under 100,000 a year.
That's good.
Yeah.
Usually. That means not always.
There's been years for sure.
Yep.
So is it something you pay out of your pocket or you get something in return? Like,
I mean, I get awesome experiences and cool friends. I get to make an impact on a lot of people's lives. Some of the most rewarding experiences I've had as a human being have come as a result of what I've done with drone racing. Some of the greatest personal connections I've made have been friends that I've made through volunteering. I never really had done any volunteering before drone racing. And so I've found a group of people that, number one, I've helped some of them to form friendships through the chapters that they created as a result of some of the efforts, and I've become their friend. So that's been a huge reward for me personally. Do I make any profit? Absolutely not. Do I get anything? I mean, I've probably gotten some free goggles. This quad that I built in 2018, I'm sure parts of this drone I didn't pay for. But really, when I started MultiGP in 2015, I had been running a business of my own for many years and had major ups, major downs, all those things. And I'd focused when you run a business, you build a business to make money. That was my goal.
Yep.
In 2015, I had kind of gotten burnt out. My businesses were running for themselves. They didn't need me. I had made plenty of money in my life. And I really just wasn't interested or concerned with pursuing money at that point in my life. It doesn't make you happy. If you get enough of it, you'll learn that the things that you think you want to buy and have won't make you happy. And I had years prior had, some really good financial years, and some of the saddest, most empty feelings of my life came as a result of that. So when I started building MultiGP, my goal, and I sat there and I looked at all the different things. Like I sat at tables talking with Ryan Gurry at the early days of DRL, and they had what they were trying to build. And for me, my sole desire was to see drone racing built in this image of what is happening now, where there's local chapters and people who run a local chapter. They're not doing it for a job. They're not trying to make money. They do it because they want to be a part, and they're forming these local communities and these things. To me, that's what drone racing should be. That's how soccer works. There's a local soccer coach in a local field. So as far as the financial goals, I would say making money from MultiGP, I'd love it. Who wouldn't, right? I'd love to make money from everything. I want to wake up and breathe in, and my bank account increases in value from the breathing in. And then when I breathe out, it's even more. And I would never have to worry about money. But the primary goal that I have at MultiGP has nothing to do with money, right? My secondary goals in MultiGP have nothing to do with making money. If MultiGP can eventually become profitable, I would celebrate that. I would like that to be profitable. I'd like to hire more people and do this on a grander scale. But even if I fail, but drone racing continues to grow and become this out of control thing, and it becomes a real sport that people do every day, that would be a win for me.
So would it be correct to say that this guy, is the biggest MultiGP sponsor? And we need to have your face on all the gates and something,
It depends on what you use as your scoreboard. So financially, probably so. I can't say for sure, but I would say if I'm not number one, I'm in the top 3. But it's not just money that makes MultiGP happen. If it did, MultiGP would be bigger than it is now. How do you value Roger Bess contributing Zippy Q and all the technology that he puts in? And how do you value Doug Kling working for 7 hours, sleeping for 2 minutes, right? Over a 7-day stint.
Right.
And how do you value Michelle Brooks taking care of all the invoicing for MultiGP yesterday? So I don't want to say that I'm the biggest contributor, because that would mean that I've decided what we're measuring the biggest contributor on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Hefty Puente, who doesn't contribute to MultiGP anymore. If you like the branding and the logo and the design, I mean, that's still his contribution to this sport. Even the name MultiGP, my friend James Weaver, that he picked the name out. I didn't pick the name out. He's the guy who deserves credit for that. So, I mean, I will say I'm a big financial supporter of MultiGP. I love MultiGP. I love the fact that drone racing is not this big commercialized sport. I love that to give the tools to as many people for free as I possibly can. It's like open source drone racing.
Yeah.
Well, so there's one of the next questions is the same question. So you said $100,000. What percentage of that is covered by sponsors? I mean, it's okay if you don't want to discover any exact numbers, but
well, to be really honest with you, because it's not fun to lose money, it's a lot easier to not pay that close attention to it. So, I mean, I see my tax returns every year and I see the losses every year. But the sponsors, like some of the big sponsors, right? Trappy, TBS, like MultiGP wouldn't be MultiGP if it wasn't for Trappy.
Yeah. In case, guys, you didn't know, we interviewed Trappy in our previous live stream. And yeah, we also said that he's one of the biggest supporters for MultiGP. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, and let me touch on that for just a second, because Trappy isn't just a big financial supporter of MultiGP. He is a big financial supporter, probably one of the biggest financial supporters of MultiGP. But he is not the same as the rest of the sponsors at MultiGP. He says, Chris, I believe in MultiGP. I love what it is you're doing. Keep doing it. Here's some funding. You use it however you need, right? He's the only sponsor who does that, right? He's got our back, which is why I have tremendous appreciation and respect for TBS. Not that I don't appreciate all of the sponsors that MultiGP has, but that's a completely different level. That's a completely different amount of commitment to what it is that we do at MultiGP. So, and it, for me, even though I'm the type of person that doesn't get, I don't get down very easily. I don't get, I can carry the motivation just through just about anything, right? I have a strong, very serious perseverance. It's one of my, keys to being successful in what I do. But there are times where sometimes, it seems like, what am I doing? And so Trappy's been a big help in those moments. Like, hey, it's not just me, right? Just because Trappy doesn't come over here and run this stuff, he's always supporting. And so that's been a huge help. Sometimes it's the little stuff that's very valuable. There's a guy, Brandon Cruz. I don't know if you know Brandon Cruz. He worked for Emax for a little bit. We were running the 2015 championships, the first championship of MultiGP. And man, it was hard. It was really hard. Things weren't going right. Our video receivers we had weren't working on one of the entire tracks. Super stressed. And I was opening these packages of like prizes that the sponsors had sent because I needed to make sure to give them distributed out. And when I opened it, it had a handwritten note from him. And like that note at that moment was like exactly what I needed, man. I was so beat down. And that was just one of those moments that was a real big encouragement for me. So I don't want to feel like I'm dancing around the story. Financially, MultiGP, I couldn't give you the exact number because I just don't have it. I don't track it. Like I don't sit there and tally it all up because that would probably demotivate me and not motivate me. I think the biggest amount I have financially put into MultiGP in a single year was about $125,000 in that price, in that range. But you got to realize, like sometimes I've paid for development. I've paid employees. I pay to sponsor things, right? I go places. I went to Korea one time to speak before the Olympics, So some years, like if we have a good year where we run our organization really lean and we do really good with sponsors, some years we don't even lose money. Like I think we've had a year where at the end of the year we made $4,000 or $5,000, but it'll never pay back what I've spent. But that's okay. Like I'm more concerned about making sure that MultiGP will last, right? I don't want to spend so much money so quickly that I can't afford to continue to do MultiGP. Because otherwise it would be way bigger with way more people and way more awesome. And it would be like a firework. It would look awesome on the way up and then it would explode and everybody thinks that's cool and not realize it just exploded.
I mean, that answers one of the questions I had because I really was curious on whether or not.
Well, I'm curious.
Neil, I think let Johnny 5 finish because he started talking. Yeah. I guess you hear him with the delay.
No, I was just very curious though because part of me is like, is this the long bet? Is this like holding on to that bit of Bitcoin that it's going to pay off? But you can just hear like all the love that you have for the sport and everything, like describing all these things. So that kind of answers it. I really hope that it is that thing that pays off eventually for you. But given all of that stuff that we've learned over the years as a community, do you think that drone racing could be the sport of the future? Like, can it be NASCAR or Formula One or even yacht racing or bicycle racing, something on that level that's going to be watched on ESPN by, maybe not worldwide, but a large community of people around the world that are going to support it? Do you think that's possible at some point?
All right, so sorry guys for technical issues because our guests not hear each other, so I'll have to repeat the question. So the question from Johnny File was, he appreciated all you're doing and all spending money, but like the question is, do you think MultiGP and drone racing can ever become a big sport like NASCAR or even like just bicycles, and do you even want that?
Do I think MultiGP or drone racing can be a big sport? Yeah, I do think drone racing can become a big sport. And I think that it takes a certain level of dedication to encouraging the individual groups to form in the individual local areas, the chapters. I think that's the key to seeing this sport finally grow to what it is. You see, when we started MultiGP from 2015 to 2017, I worked in MultiGP every day like it was a job. In 2017, I went back to work in my companies and I stopped working in MultiGP every day like it was a job. And I haven't returned since. During that period of time, and before we had committed to IO and before we had really committed to Champs and Mayhem, and we weren't doing them to the scale we were then. During that period of time, the majority of our energy and effort was towards finding people who would raise their hand and say, I want to run a chapter, and saying, okay, cool, let's help you form a chapter. Let's give you some support. I did web calls like me and you. If you came out and said you wanted to run a chapter, I would book that night, the next night, me and you, 2-3 hours. And I would spend 2 or 3 hours coaching you directly. I did that for 100, probably 150 chapters until those chapters then began mentoring more chapters. And we literally grew this sport as a result of that. So, I saw MultiGP go from ending 2015 with, I think, 13 chapters to having over 100 chapters at the end of 2016 to over 1,000 chapters at the end of 2017. So I 100% believe that drone racing can grow with a dedicated focus and effort towards growing those chapters, but somebody's got to be willing to do it. There's going to be no profit. There's going to be no money. It's going to take a lot of time. It's not going to have any of the glamour that Champs is going to have. But that's the key to making drone racing successful. And I do believe that when drone racing hits a certain size, that there's going to be enough interest and enough value to where MultiGP will be able to sustain itself financially and no longer be something that that I have to financially support year after year.
So in case our viewers don't know the chapters of MultiGP, because not all the guys are racers here, so well, I guess you're the best guy to ask what is MultiGP chapter, like what do you do with that? And
sure. Well, MultiGP chapter really just represents a local group that says we're going to do drone racing in our local city. And so as a chapter, MultiGP will give you support. Number one, you start a chapter, we call that chapter provisional. If you run a chapter and you do 3 races and you follow just a few steps, you run these 3 races, we'll move you up from a provisional chapter to a tier 3 chapter, and we will give you 5 racing gates for free. So we send you a coupon, you get 5 gates for free. So then you get your 5 gates, you follow some certain rules. The rules are about how you get new pilots. They're about how you grow the leadership of your chapter, and they're about running more races. You do that, we'll move you to a tier 2 chapter. As a tier 2 chapter, we'll send you 5 flags for free for your local chapter. Once your chapter, meets certain goals, you get to 3 leaders total in your chapter. You're recruiting several new people into your chapter, like helping to bring new pilots in. Like it's important chapters support new people who want to get in. And then you run so many races, you can then apply to become a tier 1 chapter. We actually just revamped this entire program. Claire's been harassing me to make a video about it. because one of the new requirements, if you're already a tier 1 chapter, you're grandfathered in. But a new requirement to become a tier 1 chapter is one of your chapter leaders must run a track at IO. So that's a new requirement we just rolled out.
Oh, we got John. Listen.
There you go.
I have a question now for Yvonne and Neil, because you guys pretty much share responsibilities of running the Houston chapter. Really, a lot goes to Neil, especially doing a lot of the track designs. Yvonne runs a lot of the races. But one thing that I've noticed is 6 years ago when I showed up for my first race, like Neil was there giving me tips. And then 6 years later in 2023, when I'm at a race, Neil's still there giving me tips. And it's been really cool to go to big races like IO and then meet those people that are there, Neil, for all these other cities. But how do we get more of them, right? That's a really special role. And like, I can see that for our city, like those 2 or 3 people are just critical for drone racing to keep going. But like, how do we get more?
I also just have to mention our guy Sam, because I feel like lately he's been like way more important for Houston drone racing than me and Neil and Matt. Well, sorry guys, but this is reality, because Mr. Sam runs the track every week, every Wednesday for like freaking 5 years. Like same day he's just there with his generator, with his truck and gates, and I love that. Like we just like we are so lucky we have Sam, and this is great. And if you guys have a guy like this in your town, you just have to pray for this guy so that he doesn't burn and that he doesn't quit because, like, you know, because you are assholes or whatever. You have to be nice to him and you have to support whatever you have. And so Mr. Sam, if you're watching, we really appreciate what you're doing. That's for
much
sure.
love for Sam. Much love.
Yeah.
Well, the question of how do you get new people, find new chapter organizers, honestly, that's what I did. I would chase people down. I would stalk social media. I would, hey, where do you live? Do you want to be an organizer? Do you know anybody who wants to be an organizer? And I would hunt those people down. What happened though is, you know, at first it was like pulling teeth, right, to find those organizers. But once that hype started building, right, and there was a lot of new people coming through the ranks all together, they formed this camaraderie. And that was really an important stage in helping those chapters to grow together. When we did the 2016 champs, I had more volunteers for that event than we probably ever had. And they were all race, like chapter organizers. And we were all kind of standing around laughing. We had so many qualified, skilled race directors at that one event. And it was such a great community that was supportive of the other chapter organizers, you know, because it's a thankless job, which I really respect you taking the time there to thank Sam. It's not that, you know, even as a race organizer, you know that people appreciate what you do, but that appreciation doesn't take away the blisters. It doesn't take away the rust stains that you get on your wife's cloth car seats because you accidentally threw the rebar on the cloth seat. You know what I'm saying?
It's a big deal.
Like,
yeah.
all the struggles that you feel as a race director. And so having that community and that camaraderie is a big thing. And that is pretty much like if you attend a MultiGP meeting, like our internal meetings, which we do, for me lately, it's been, we got to go back to the chapters. We got to get back to these chapters because that is going to be the key. If we want to see this sport really be what I still think it can be, we have to go back to what helped us to get this started.
So for now, how would you find these people, you know, that can gather like racers around them, you know, because there are areas, and there are areas that losing people like this. So like, what's your vision? How do you like make more of these people? Well,
so we've recently rolled out version 2 of the chapter organizer model. The chapter organizer model number 1 did a good job, but it was lacking in a couple of key points. So that we revised it to include requiring leadership, because what happens is a lot of times one person carries the chapter and they carry it and they carry it and they carry it and they get burnt out. And before anybody knows, they're already too burnt out to come back. And then no one's ready there to take over. So we've now required us for chapters to grow, they must have a broader leadership structure. That's going to help them for those other organizers to already realize, like, hey, Ivan's kind of burnt out, man. Ivan's got some things going on. That's all right, because I'm already I'm a leader as well for this chapter, so I can help carry that chapter further. And then the other part that I find, which is sort of what tends to happen in a lot of chapters, is when a chapter is really new, it's easy for a new person to come along and go, I want to do that too, because everyone on the track is slow. The races don't run very well. There's a lot of downtime in between. So it's easy to just walk up and start talking. As chapters begin to mature, right, all the pilots get faster, the races get better, they get well more organized, and then it's a lot more intimidating for a brand new person to come visit. So you get a lot of guys who walk in and they go, wow, that's cool. I can't do that. They might not say it out loud that they can't do that, but it tends to make it a lot harder. There's a larger barrier to entry. And so in V2 of our chapter model, we've come up with metrics that track your individual chapter's ability to bring new pilots in. And so that way you as a chapter organizer can say, hey guys, we have to make sure that we're continuing to keep the door open. Let's go find some new pilots. And it's not just the organizer, it's everybody in the community. Surely if you like drone racing, then your friends like drone racing. So stop keeping it to yourself and tell your friends, come on out, man. I got to. If our chapter doesn't get some new pilots, we might lose our ranking. Come on out. Just come check it out. Do me a favor, man. Just come see drone racing.
Right? Yeah, get into it. Get into it for sure. Yeah, we definitely run into that at here, or back at our home events, seeing new people with bug-eyed, whoa, this is cool, but what's just so far beyond what we can do. I'm even maybe a little bit guilty of being a part of that, because I like to make wild tracks, and so when new people show up to anything that I've created,
hey, Mr. Sean Shames, Neil just admitted that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a thing, because I'm trying to make a track that's exciting for me too, right? And so that's just part of it. But I've also found that if you just be clear with new pilots and say, hey, you're here today, everybody sucked in the beginning, you're not going to fly like this guy or that guy, and that's okay. If you can just complete one lap today, you really won the day for yourself. And I think it's important to really communicate with pilots that this is, to new people, that this is going to be a long process, and it can be very frustrating, but it's going to be very gratifying as well. And if you can stick to it, it's going to be something that you really enjoy for the rest of your life. I really believe that.
Yeah,
for sure.
If we do a better job of supporting the existing chapters we have, right? You guys are perfect examples. You run chapters. How often have I or somebody from my organization reached out to just give you some coaching, check in to see how you're doing, see if you can mentor someone? Probably not very often, right?
Yeah, it's been a while for sure. We were mentors some years ago, but aside from that, we really haven't participated. There hasn't been much interaction up or down, for sure.
Sure. Well, we just haven't. We've dedicated so much of our time and energy to putting on a great mayhem, putting on a great IO, putting on a great chance, and after all that is done, there hasn't really been a lot left. You know? So it's not that we don't want to. It's that, when you're like, man, Champs is in 2 months, we better make sure Champs happens. That's a definitive ticking timer that we have to pull off. And, every year it gets harder and harder, because every year we've succeeded. And so it's like, all right, man, we really can't mess up this year, because we haven't messed up all the other years. So we have to not mess up this year as well.
Yeah.
Man, we got
it's interesting how it builds.
I feel like Chris is more popular than Tripe. Look at that. We got 238 people watching.
Oh, wow. Well, I believe that. Yeah.
Nice. Hi, everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for the chat. The chat is being pretty good. I'm trying to follow with some questions, but obviously
it's moving fast.
Because most of the stuff that Chris is saying is also new for me. I want to listen to that too.
Yeah.
And
this has been a good conversation.
Yeah, it was for sure. And I wanted to say that also, that being a chapter organizer doesn't mean that you have to come every day, not every day, like every week with a timing system and organize the heats and do actual race, because you can, set up the gates and it doesn't have to be official race. Like we fly in Houston, Sam just sets up gates for us and we just fly. Of course we divide into heats if it's too many people, but it's not a race against other people. You don't have to be nervous all the time, or if you want to skip the heat, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to freestyle above the course, you can also do that if you're not feeling comfortable going through the gates. So not every event you organize, guys, have to be official race with podium and stuff. It can be just a fun fly with the gates, and that's it. And that's still very fun. That's what we're doing most of the time in Houston.
Houston really because of the size of Houston, you're looking at an area that should have about 4 active chapters. Right? Yeah. It's such a big area and such a large population. If you had, 4 active chapters spread out among the area, that'd be awesome. Because if once a month your local chapter put on a really great event, and then the rest of the weekends belong to the different chapters, that's all you'd have to do is throw one big party a month. And then the rest of the month, you could visit the other chapters if you wanted to, and you could just be a pilot.
Yeah, well, for us, it's a little bit of question of people. I think we should do better job at finding new people, and because in organizing, it's basically the same, group of 6 people. And if you want to do a race somewhere else in Houston, it's still the same 6 people. It's not like, even though Houston is big. And Mr. Team Germanov, thanks for $111.11 super chat. He says Din Drones. Yeah, go check it out. Dindrones.com. I think that's the website. It has some cool stuff for drone racers there. Yeah, thanks for.
Den actually makes one of the coolest things that I've seen. He makes a battery. I don't know if you've seen it. It's individual lipos, right? So you can take them out to their individual case, and it's a 100 amp hour battery. Or might even be bigger than that you can fly with and go to a race, set it up, and you've got your own little personal generator set up, with that battery.
That's a cool setup. So everybody check that out at dinjones.com. We got another super chat from Steady Eddie FPV. He says he wants to thank Chris for encouraging him and his dad to do Kung Fu at IO. Nice. Chris says, didn't you guys come here to have fun? Yeah, I love that. He says it really captured the moment. So yeah, Kung Fu is a good time at IO, and I really love. And it's I feel like it's your one of your main jobs on Saturday night, on World Cup night, is to the main recruiter for Kung Fu, getting everybody out there.
I tell you what, sometimes I get so mad. I'm like, just go do Kung Fu, right? It's not that hard. Don't stop taking yourself so seriously. You're with a bunch of nerds in the middle of a field.
Right.
Whatever you think about yourself, no one thinks about that. So just go do Kung Fu. That way, when you get old, you can watch it and you'll still be cool.
Yeah, so in case someone doesn't know what is Kung Fu, is every time at IO, there's a certain time where everyone just stands in front of the professional-looking camera with the professionals behind it, and then you execute some weird Kung Fu moves, and then it's all being compiled in a 5-minute video where it's all these nerds doing weird Kung Fu kicks, and that's fun. I really love that.
Yeah,
my kids, that's their favorite thing. Every year they want the Kung Fu video. That's all they care about.
Let me see if I can find quickly. Neil, can you please move to the next question? I'll try to quickly find the Kung Fu video.
So, Chris, are we living in a simulation?
I mean, how long do you want to go into this?
We're gonna spend a quick 5 minutes on it because we've had some interesting talks about this.
And if we're living in a simulation, who is running this simulation?
Yeah.
Do you buy lottery tickets?
Do I? Yeah, I have. My wife loves scratch offs.
Okay, well, the Mega Millions.
Yeah.
You know what your odds are of winning?
No.
Not very good. Would you agree?
I agree. They're not great.
That's the odds that this is not a simulation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, look at things like the speed of light. That's just the speed the processor capable of running this. That's as fast as the data can move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, okay. Just like a hardware limitation.
Well, I mean, computers continue to grow at an exponential rate. We will eventually reach the point where we can simulate reality, right?
Yep.
Eventually it'll happen.
Okay.
Once at real time, and then twice at real time, and then 4 times, and then thousands of times, and then faster than real time. So eventually we'll be able to simulate millions and millions of realities simultaneously. So if we do get to that level, and there's millions of realities that we've simulated, but only one real one, which one are you in?
Yeah. So that's how the math works, that the chances are that we're in a simulation and
chances are.
Yeah. Wow. Well, if we are in a simulation, like are you an NPC quest giver?
I am pretty convinced that the characteristics I show mean that I'm not an NPC. However, the second theory, which is a very good one, is that I am an NPC quest giver, and IO is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Like literally you come up to me and I'm probably going to give you a quest. So
yeah, it's just like I feel like that's what goes on in your life, right? You've created all these businesses where you've given people quests for their professional life.
Very likely.
Yeah, right. Then you created this like entertainment organization right around racing where you put all these real players from all around the country. They come together to participate in drone racing, and like you're creating activities for them to participate in. I mean, being that the math is like so good that we're in a simulation, I feel like the math is also pretty damn good that you are all our quest givers. So we appreciate you for the work that you've done fulfilling your directive. Thank you for that.
The only thing that makes me mad is if this is a simulation. I'm disappointed that we can't see our stats. You know?
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
Like it would be cool to know, like, you're pretty strong, Neil, but what's the number? Like, what's your strength characteristic? That'd be nice. And like your health.
Well, at least we get to know what's our number for the drone racing skills, right?
There you go.
That's why we have a global qualifier. It's like now it's the global list.
Yeah. So before we did the GQ, we did the regionals, right? And I loved doing the regionals. And if we had but that's the year where we spent the stupid money, right? When we did the regionals.
Yeah, that was a good year, though. That was an amazing year in drone racing. I loved that so much. Yeah,
it was amazing. We had one event specifically, one regional. We had like 20 tents out there, and a storm came through, and every single one got wrecked. I mean, we just bought them, right? So like one storm, $2,000, $3,000, whatever the tents cost, just gone. Right?
Yeah,
that hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we like it though.
Should we? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't like. Should we move to the spicy question? Oh, by the way, thanks to Mr. Phil for $2 super chat. He says apply the PIDS adjustments model in your life. I guess I don't know. Maybe Johnny 5. You need a little bit of tuning.
Be quiet, Phil. Phil, be quiet.
Oh man, no, just Phil. Phil gets the most love in this from our channel, so we love Phil a lot.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So well, let's so we talked about champs a little bit, and I mean, we are moving into a new champs this year, and it seemed like there was I couldn't really imagine how there would be drama about this year's champs, but we just found some last week. So we all got an email that said, hey, champs tickets are for sale. They're for sale till August 15th. And then we all found out shortly thereafter, or I guess not we all, some people found out shortly thereafter, well, there's only 64 tickets and there's a counter and they're counting down. And I got to thank Sean Ames, because Sean Ames really raised awareness. He started posting about it, and I saw him post very quickly that half the champs tickets were sold. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. What does that even mean? Half the champs tickets are sold. And then it was a post the next day, there's 10 champs tickets left. And I was like, okay, well, I got to go buy myself a champs ticket because I'm going to champs. So wow, I need to go get one. And then the same day it was oh my gosh, they're sold out. And wow, MultiGP is terrible because they didn't see this coming, and they all lied to us. And Chris is trying to take all the money for champs and doesn't want any 13-year-old kids to go to champs.
Someone asked that I write an email to their 13-year-old kid to tell him that he couldn't get a ticket.
So
I saw that. I'm not sure that anyone would want to get an email that you would write to their 13-year-old child.
I wrote it. I just didn't send it.
Yeah, it's probably best.
So for some of the viewers, sorry Neil, I have to interrupt here a little bit. For some of our viewers that are not into racing, and well, they should be into racing, but if you're not, maybe you're not familiar with the concept of GQ. So the way it works, every year there is a GQ standard track that is new every year that everyone runs. Let me switch to my scene. Yeah, so basically the whole world, whoever want to join MultiGP, they run this track and they put their time on this track in the leaderboard. And if you're top 150 in this on this leaderboard, there's usually about 1,000 people, maybe 700 people on the leaderboard. So if you're top 150, then you are invited in the pro class champs, because besides pro class champs, there is also sportsman class champs, which is like 151 and slower. Like, we don't like to say slower, but well, that's how it works. Yeah. So, and this year the drama was, well, Neil basically just explained it. So it's 150 pilots qualified for pro class, but only 64 pilots. But only 64 tickets, and the tickets ran out of quick. And on top of all that, MultiGP also sent email that your ticket is reserved until August 15. So here we go. This is Mr. Chris Thompson. We blame him for everything. And like, what's your answer for that?
You know, honestly, I'm just sick of the pro pilots.
No. That's what it is.
No.
Huh?
I could see that.
Here's really what's happened. So for many events, we would put tickets out and we wouldn't know how many pilots are going to attend, right? And we're very focused on planning these events out. However, the planning that we do really requires for us to know how many pilots are going to be there. So how many brackets could we run? Are there going to be bump ups? How many packs per day? How many tracks do we need? How many volunteers, chargers, tables, tents, everything. And so every year when things are really too complicated, a big part of what I do to the organization, I'm like, well, I'm going to make it easier. I'm going to make it simpler. So when we rolled out the rules for this year, the rules clearly state there's only 64 spots for champs, for the pro class. That's it. We're going to limit it at 64. And at 64, we can ensure exactly how many packs per day a pilot's going to get, what brackets we're going to run. It's just going to make planning so much easier for us. And we're already not doing this for money, despite the concern that there's some sort of a cash grab. And so whenever I go from, say, 64 pilots to 80 pilots, do we make a little bit of extra on tickets? Sure. But the expense comes for my volunteers who are going to be there helping to run the event, to put in more hours, more time, and losing more margin in case it were to rain or so like weather-related issues were to occur. Right? So it's not free. Inviting more people isn't free. So we rolled that out with the rules. And when this email was drafted, the intention was to say that, so normally what we would do is if we didn't fill the 64, we reserve that only the top 150 can buy a ticket up until a certain point. And after that, if they haven't been filled, we may go deeper into the roster to make sure that all 64 pilots were put there. That was the intention of the conversation that resulted in an email. So then an email was written, and you know, like a typical situation where multiple people had an opportunity to proofread this email and should have proofread the email and didn't proofread the email, it didn't get proofread. So, you know, like it happens, right? There was a story of a murder where everybody looked out the window and observed it happening in New York City, and no one called the police because everybody thought everyone else was going to, right? We just didn't catch that it was worded improperly. So the reservation that was there is that the top 150 have an exclusive opportunity to get a ticket up until a certain date. And then after that, we may fill the roster past the 150 ranking if we need to. That's the way it should have been worded. So the rules, if you look at 13.1, it says 64 pilots. 13.9 says you have to decline your invite, blah, blah, blah. There's been lots of drama over that. But so it was never our intention to sort of trick pilots into not buying tickets. That was not the goal. And it was just improper wording. I should have reviewed it myself. I would have caught it myself. And it just happens, right? Everybody makes mistakes. I mean, I ate at Arby's earlier this week. So like we all do it, right? We all just do dumb things once in a while.
Well, there goes their potential sponsorship.
Yeah. Sorry, Arby's.
Well,
sorry.
So I mean, like, I guess it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Just for 1 second to play devil's advocate, I probably didn't read the entire email, and I don't always follow very closely. But even I did know that this was time sensitive, probably by day 1.5. And so I fully understood if I wanted to go buy my ticket now. And like, I feel like most people that are at least semi plugged in to the Facebook, like you said, Shames was sending out alerts. So the official communications were a little bit confusing for sure, but I think I do feel bad definitely for Sloth. He's in the top 20. He's been working really hard. Even last TIO, he was like surprisingly fast, and to creep from where he was at last year to this year is a big step. So I feel definitely sad for all the work he put in, but I knew, I mean, and I'm not super plugged in.
So why, or maybe that's the plan for future, why you wouldn't do, all right, you like, I understand why you have only 64 tickets, but maybe you can allow, you know, top 64 pilots to buy them first. And then, you know, 10 days later, you allow whatever, next 64 pilots to buy them.
Yeah, if you want to email me after this call, if you're volunteering to do that additional work, that step, I'll be happy to bring you in as a volunteer.
All right. Call.
I mean, realistically, all I was doing was taking work off of our existing volunteers by reducing the number of steps we have to do to, you know, fill those positions. So I'll tell you what we're doing about it for this year. Okay. And I imagine that next year the tickets will be limited. I'm not going to promise you that just because you make top 64, you're going to get an exclusive spot to buy. So I will highly recommend that come 2024, don't even read the email. Just when it says buy your ticket, go to that website and just like set up a tent like it's a Walmart Black Friday deal and start clicking and you better get your ticket, right? There's going to be zero excuse come next year. This is like the hammer thing, right? We smashed the drone. You now know 25 milliwatts is the rule, right? So that said, I can tell you the process that we're going through internally at MultiGP right now. Okay. Number one, we're collecting data. We've been reaching out to all the pilots who weren't able to buy a ticket to find out who actually would have gone if they could have bought a ticket. Right? All right. Not everybody can go. You're a perfect example, right? Either you can't go for certain reasons to
unfortunately.
Yeah, and I also say, you know, like there are some real pilots like maybe Sloth that were planning to go, they couldn't buy a ticket. But I also know for sure I saw comments from people that I never seen at Champs, or I know for sure just like likely wouldn't have gone, but like, oh, well, here's a chance to like shit on MultiGP. Like, boo-hoo, I was definitely going to go, but I didn't get to buy my ticket. So, I mean,
don't be that guy.
All like that, but there were for sure some of those too.
Yeah, we got that. My biggest critic is usually a friend, which is Chris Perry. He was being a real bitch about the whole thing. So he hasn't called me, but apparently he wanted to just crucify us like we were killing babies over here at MultiGP. So
he can be
clear it up.
Yeah,
we're not killing babies. Stop being the dick online, Chris.
So for next year, all the top 64 that spent a year training their fingers to be the fastest that they could be, make sure that clicking finger is ready to buy now as soon as the ticket goes on sale.
There you go. I mean, look, we'll make some improvements. Who knows? Roger may roll out a super automated system that makes it easier for pilots to be able to do this. I would imagine that we'll learn a lot from this. But after we get done collecting the information on which pilots were affected, we've got a tier 1. So one of the really big benefits of being a tier 1 chapter, of growing a chapter, is you get invited to these tier 1 meetings. And that's where basically we show you the inner workings of how MultiGP works, right? And we have a couple of plans of what we're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what they are because you got to be a tier 1 chapter in the meeting to hear this first. we'll go through what solution we might propose. One of those solutions might be we won't do anything. So I'm not going to make any promises that might end up not being true. But we want to give the tier one an opportunity to express their opinion, because I have a lot of respect for anyone who's a tier one chapter. If you put the work in, you've helped me build the sport by running a local club in your area, I consider you an equal. I want to hear your opinion, right? I bounce ideas off a lot of the chapter organizers. I call Sean Ames a lot, and I'm like, hey, Sean, what you think about this? Because I value his opinion. I talk to Jay McGibbon sometimes on, stuff, because I value, these guys have been there. They know the direction and the vision of what I'm trying to accomplish. And sometimes it's just nice to get someone else's opinion on that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, Sean, just speaking of Sean Ames, he's here in the chat saying, how about Champs at a huge venue next year with several tracks and 400 pilots? Like, that would be an interesting way to do Champs.
I don't think we can have 400 pilots for Champs. Well, then it will be like a second IO. Then maybe we can, and I think
that'd be awesome. I love IO.
We should. What do you think about second IO, Chris?
We could just merge them into one event.
Oh no, we need two. No, we need two. Like there needs to be two of them. Yeah.
I can promise you that IO, take the finances out of MultiGP.
Yeah.
I give more to MultiGP and to this sport in the time that I give to IO than in any other thing, even more than the money, right? Like it literally, it's a lot. It's like my entire life. It is a chunk of my life every year, and not just mine.
A lot of people.
A lot of people. A chunk of Claire's life. A chunk of Doug's life. Right. I mean, it is an unbelievable sacrifice to do that once a year.
Yeah.
To as much as I'd love for it to happen twice a year, if I could snap my fingers, or there was a reasonable price to pay, there probably would be 2 IOs. There might be 5 IOs. There might be an IO in every country. But it's the necessary personnel that makes it difficult. And we've been investing a lot at the AMA to make it easier year after year for us to run events out there.
Yeah, so, Double A saying that we have everything at AMA in the new container.
Yeah, we've got it really nice. We've got it all set up. Thanks, Double A. I got some great stories with that guy. He's been a great friend and supporter for a long time here. But here's the hard part is, like, doing the Champs at Matt Michelle's, that is like a unicorn of a place, right? It's private, meaning we can set up as early as we want. We can start setting up Champs right now, right? It has Michelle, who she is such a rock to drone racing that she just contributes so much to building this. It's just, we've got all the technology already built in there. We've got power already built in there. So it really takes a lot of load off of us to be able to run an event, and we can run a stellar event there. Now, we lucked out in 2019 with the venue with Daytona, because we got a stadium. And normally when you get a stadium, it's got a lot of fine print.
Yeah, the stadium races are amazing to go to. I mean, as an attendee, they are very awesome.
They are. And that one, like, all the stars aligned. If we ever find another venue like that, right now we're the 2024 venues we're considering. We've got some pretty big ones, but it all has to align. I would much rather us do the event at Matt and Michelle's beautiful ranch. Like, that is just a great place for it, than have it at an event like Governor's Island in New York. You're got to be dumb to try to do an event there, because the ferry doesn't leave till a certain time. It just,
sure. I mean, like that venue isn't great, but I got to push a little bit that there are a lot of great venues around the country that we can
Dallas, for example.
Dallas. Yeah, like Dallas for sure. Dallas would be a great venue for Champs with a good organization there to support.
But I'll never. I mean, we only do so many big events a year, and we already do Mayhem in Dallas. So unless we move to Mayhem out of Dallas, I don't want to. If we're only gonna, go to several venues a year, I don't want to go to the same one twice.
What's the problem with that? What was the problem of running at least 1 year Champs in Dallas and Mayhem in Dallas?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it doesn't even have to be there twice. That's okay. I just think, like, there are a lot of great places for champs to be. I understand, and we talked about Matt and Michelle's place in a previous podcast, but I'll say it again. The venue they have there is one of the best places, probably the best place in the world you could have a drone race at as a venue. It's all set up. Everything you said is there. The tech is there. The field is there. It's private. The privacy, it's real. It's a little bit of a downside that you have to stop early, right? Because they have neighbors, but I get it. So it's private. The downside, though, is that it's very far from the airport. It's very far from places to eat. It's very far from places to sleep. And so, like, if you think about the triangle of needs, Sean and I talked about this one time. So if you run drone races. There's a triangle of need for the pilots, right? It's the venue, it's lodging, it's food. And the success of a given venue is how tight that triangle can be, because the tighter the triangle, the more time pilots have to enjoy the event, to enjoy each other, to enjoy racing, and not be driving from the race to the house, to the eat, back to the house, to hang out, whatever it may be. Yeah. So, like, man, I love going to events at the ranch. And I do think that there should be marquee events at the ranch that continue to happen, because it's an amazing place to race at. But the challenge for champs being there is that triangle is really big. And it'd be good for something like Mayhem. Mayhem would be amazing there. Amazing there.
But you gotta cut at 10. But you gotta stop at 10 at Mayhem.
Well, that's okay, because the last few Mayhems have run from like 6 to 6, right?
That's true.
Like they have been the sunrise to sunset. So, like, it really wouldn't be a
flip
problem.
them every year. That would be cool.
Oh yeah,
we just really would love to see champs in Dallas. All the Texas guys.
So Sean is saying, and it's not about being from Texas, it's just that it's a good place. Sean is saying in the chat that Mayhem would be awesome at the ranch because you are in one spot the entire day. Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yes,
I agree. I mean, look, my office is 10 minutes from the Mayhem field.
Yeah.
Right. My family is from that area. That's home to me. I love the area. But that would be the type of thing that would get us there. Or maybe, some of the venues that we're considering for next year, maybe one of these will come through. But it is a limitation in the number of the persons that are there, the amount of time that they can give. Like, there's only so much time available for each person. And as much as a venue is exciting, the venue is less important for us than making sure we're going to have power at IO. So if right now the highest priority is getting power to IO, we don't have time to hunt for a venue, right? And so because of the limitations in time, that has been the thing. Now, that said, since COVID, like, we pretty much, the MultiGP, the staff dwindled a lot at the start of COVID because we didn't know what things were going to be. And we've been steadily building since. So, like, our team is just getting larger and larger. So maybe 2024 will be the year. I look forward to one day having, our top 16 pro bracket under some giant lights again, like the Daytona Stadium or something. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Well, I think we all do, and we understand that it takes a lot of work to make that happen. And I think everybody is appreciative of Matt and Michelle and what they have there, and like, we all have fun at the ranch. And so I'm excited to go back there. It's not like that I'm like, damn it, we're at the ranch again, because every time I've been, we've had a blast. So, like, that's for sure. Well, you kind of segued into a question that we had there. Like, I got a question I sort of skipped over earlier, but let's talk about the team at MultiGP. So how has the team in MultiGP changed in the last year, and how do you see that affecting its operation?
Well, the team has grown. The structure has grown. I've been lately. This is sort of a bit of a tangent, but I've been working on a software project for the last year and a half to software design for management. Right? Not fun, not exciting, but as I've been doing this, it's been helping me to grow the management in my own companies and how they're structured. And we've applied that to MultiGP as well. And we've been having some really good success. So Claire's a recent addition. She is pretty much the integrator. She's the person in charge. there at MultiGP. So she's been a huge addition to the team, really helpful and a huge contributor, very passionate about drone racing. So Michelle has been in charge there of the finances at MultiGP for a while. She's just she's the one behind the scenes, doesn't want any credit, but just gets things done. Been a really amazing contributor at MultiGP. Doug has been like the crazy mad scientist for quite a while of MultiGP. You guys might not know it, but I'd consider him a big financial contributor, because he brings a lot of that tech that you see, crazy cameras and all that stuff. That's all Doug's stuff. That's his personal stuff.
I didn't know that. It's a lot of stuff. I've seen him unload his kit and try to reload it, and it's a lot of stuff, Doug.
Dude, he's got so much technology, and that's all him, right? He gives that, and that's not it. He does a lot of the planning, a lot of the stuff. He contributes a lot. So Mark Groh, he's like our Mario of the organization. He does just about everything inside the organization, but a lot of his focus is about the events, getting the tracks put together, getting the logistics of everything put together, making sure the rule book gets updated. Mark is really good about getting things to the finish line. Like we got 40 things here. Mark's going to be the guy who helps us to pull those things there to the finish line. Roger, I try to keep Roger, in a room with the door shut, and we just slide Twinkies and stuff under the door because he's such a talented programmer, but he takes on. Roger does everything, right? And Roger is very much he's like the wizard. He has a lot of wisdom, right? So when things aren't going right, Roger's the guy you see, take a breath. So for a lot of times for me, I'll go to lunch or dinner with Roger after an event, and Roger just listens, and I get a lot of really good advice from Roger. Shannon has been probably, from the very beginning, he's helped kind of behind the scenes with some of the chapter support for a long, long time. Plus he's the Mayhem godfather. So really it would be up to Shannon if we ever change the Mayhem venue, right? Because this is his baby. He put so much time and energy into that. I think it would be unfair to make that decision for him. That would be a decision. So if you want to start lobbying for that change, that's the guy.
Yeah, right. I've been doing it, but we'll continue. Everybody else here in the chat can now know that Shannon Broussard is the guy that we got to hit up to get Mayhem moved into Florida. We would love to go to Florida for Mayhem, right? Just message him that.
There you go.
Well, not 24 hours, but we want to go to Mayhem in Florida.
Joe Scully is he's like the singer, he's back in the trailer sometimes eating his green M&Ms or whatever the heck that he wants. But Joe and I have got tons of stories and adventures that we've been on. And Joe's been in probably every different role in the organization. He's lately kind of started his own little business. And so he's been less involved on the day-to-day with MultiGP. He's still the guy on the mic, right? He's still the guy that you know as the voice of drone racing, but he hasn't been as involved organizationally, outside of events as he has been in the past. There's been times where it's just me and Joe running things for a while. And then Henry, if you've noticed all of our messaging and branding and marketing and graphics and all the new stuff that's been coming out, that's been Henry. Henry has been phenomenal. He's been a great addition to this team. Super great contributor. Really, the only thing, his one Achilles heel is microphone. So that's it.
Is microphone?
So Henry, for whatever reason, he destroys microphones. I don't know what it is. He just has this so if he's ever at the event at Champs, just keep your microphones to yourself.
Looks like Henry is doing fun stuff on his Instagram.
Yeah, Henry does all kinds of cool stuff. He's been a great addition, and he's super passionate.
Click that mountain right there.
He's super passionate in our organization to help engage the international crowd. Right? He's been really, really pushing to help us to pull more international folks into our organization. Yeah, so it's been awesome. Alex has been Alex is this super mature kid that it's very impressive, but also annoying because I didn't have I don't even feel as put together today as he is right now, and he's still in college, and he's handling all this, the government affairs. He brought me into a meeting with the executive director of the FAA, and I felt very underprepared, but he was just cool as could be. So,
sorry, Chris, Mr. Neil, we can hear your little thing.
Oh, my bad.
You're good.
Oh, sorry. And then Ignacio has been a contributor building our app for the Apple device. So if you're listening to this podcast, we still don't have anybody handling an Android app. So we don't have an Android app because you guys are too busy just consuming all of this content and not giving back to the community. So this is me calling you out to reach out to MultiGP to get involved, because we need an Android app. Because if we had an iPhone and an Android app, who knows? Roger might start developing tools that work really good to let you run your races on your phone.
All right. Well, somebody out there is getting fired up right now. They just love
Android developer
stuff.
Right? Yeah.
So hit up Chris.
Yeah, that was very nice. I'm glad we ran through all these guys and explaining what they did.
It's really great. Everybody chipping in to help. I can really see this year as a pilot attending member of MultiGP that it seems that a lot has come together a bit, that the team is gelling more, that the events seem to be running a little smoother, better on time, just happening better. And we know it's drone racing, stuff happens. You can't go to an event and expect that it's all going to be run down every moment. But in general, I really feel that that the organization's running better, and it's good to see the work that the team has done to be stronger, shown in the events that everyone's doing. So
a quick question, Chris. So if there's an Android developer listening to us right now, who should he reach to? Because I see there are emails, just message to you, or
pretty much anybody but me.
All right.
Claire, tell him to reach out to Claire.
Reach out if you want to be a developer. Roger. Reach out to Claire or Roger.
Yeah, Claire or Roger,
and two best. Paths.
And this is multigp.com/team, and there are little emails.
By the way, I think my description is the best.
Let's see.
Just saying.
Master of Racer.
Wizard the 5.8 video channels.
Yeah, Master of Racer and Heats, manipulator of cycle times, devoted to America, champion of principles of freedom. The pilot knows me as the fastest on go-karts. That's true. Yeah,
that is true.
He's pretty fast on go-karts. The organizers know me as one of the megaphone. And I am also known in the Northeast as a guy on the bike. That's something I don't know. What is that story? The guy on the bike?
2016 champs was or 2016 drone nationals. You go over to Governor's Island. You had to walk everywhere, or you could rent a bike. So I just rented a bike the whole time.
Nice.
I wasn't running anything. I was just an observer. So I just rode my bike around. I set up FPV on the bike and rode it with my goggles on. Just had a good time.
This is dangerous.
Hey Chris, so I feel maybe we haven't what's the summary of the ticket situation, right? So nothing, correct me if I'm wrong, nothing gonna be changing for this year. Maybe some pilots cannot come, and then they will let you know, and then someone else taking their tickets. Is this correct? And for next year some changes are going to happen, but you don't know exactly what changes yet. You can't announce them yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that we are still going to have a fixed number of available tickets, just because it makes it far easier to run a championship level event. So next year we'll have a limit. For this year, we're collecting data. So if you were one of these pilots, you need to make sure that you're telling us. If you want to do a 10, you can also go and buy a ticket showing that you want a standby position. So that way we know. because we have a tier 1 meeting planned next week where we're going to be discussing this. And then you'll see an official announcement from MultiGP if we're going to be making any sort of changes or modifications or exceptions for this year to handle this issue.
So next week, right? Like which day will be then?
I think the meeting is Thursday of next week.
Mm-hmm.
So if we meet on Thursday, nothing will probably happen on Friday. So probably the week after, Monday or Tuesday, I would expect the message to go out.
All right, and it will be on Facebook and I guess on MultiGP website.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Yeah, and so for next year, like, are there any chances that it can be, you know, first top 64 pilots can be invited first, or you need more volunteers for that?
I mean, if we have 64 pilots, we might invite just those. Like, if we have 64 tickets next year, we might invite just the top 64 first, and then roll over to the next group. That said, you're never going to get, like, there's never going to be a world where the first 64 are going to go.
Right. Of course, yeah, because some of them, like, I would imagine, like, half of them just can't go. So,
yeah, people have lives, you know. It's not like winning champs will change your life. Yeah, pretty much everybody's won champs that changed their life.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people don't take buying a ticket serious to MultiGP. Let's see. There's Sean Taylor, who ended up traveling the world for a couple of years for a TV show. There is Alex Vanover, who is probably one of the most well-known drone pilots in Hollywood now as a result of it. You have Evan Turner, who runs a very successful brand and is also a very well-known and successful pilot, right?
Yeah.
You have Soren, who's on his way to some things. And, of course, you have Minchan now. We'll see where he goes. But I would imagine if you were really serious to get to the pro level in drone racing, you should just take buying a ticket very seriously next year. No matter what venue or how many invites we have, do not count on waiting because it's champs. It's an important thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is
don't wait next time.
That's good advice.
Yeah, and yeah, guys. So if you're still, you know, one of the guys that wants to go but didn't have time to buy tickets, then just wait for the announcement. Basically it's like 1.5 weeks, and put yourself on the stand list, and hope for the best.
So stand by and then be waiting. Yeah,
right.
For sure.
And so if anyone has a ticket
Chris,
they'd like to sell,
go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
Scalping. Are we going to be scalping now? Yeah. Oh, shit.
So, yeah, we actually have talked about that a lot. I don't think we're going to allow the transfer of a ticket, just the refund within our policy.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And you'll probably see an announcement. I'm not going to make it official because I again, out of respect for our tier 1s, we'll roll it past our tier 1s, but we have a pretty certain, you know, how we're going to fill the standby ticket spot idea in mind. And, you know, so I want to make sure the tier 1s have a chance to have their say, to see if they agree with what we're going to do. And, you know, we try to make it fair. One of the nice parts, because even though this is a very, very mature championship, right? We've done this for quite a while. We're a small enough organization and we care about the community. We want to hear from them. I like the feedback. I like that people get pissed off because they don't get to go. That means that they wanted to go.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, just start a poll. That'll fix it.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, we'll probably like zipper a couple groups together in a certain way.
Yeah. A zipper.
Hey,
zipper gate.
I think we need to move to the next spicy question about the timing system, because we got a few guys asking when MultiGP allows other timing system software besides lifetime.
That's a great question.
Like, would you also say, well, hey, volunteers, do some software programming, and then we can do that?
You know, a lot of it is just having people with enough time to dedicate specifically to that problem to ensure accuracy, right? I don't know. When I started MultiGP, there was a bunch of drone racing obstacles, and they were all these arch gates. And immediately, one of the first things that I did was get rid of arch gates and start using square gates. And the reason I did that is because if you set up an arch gate like this, it was a different gate than like this.
Yeah.
Right. And so like if you were going to set up a GQ and one guy sets his GQ up like this and one guy sets it up like this, it's not the same GQ. Right. And so the concern is, and the reason why we haven't yet, because there's not enough testing, is if we allow different systems or different timers, are we going to be getting the same data or not? And until that is answered, and I'm not the guy who's going to test it, then the easiest way to ensure accuracy is keep it homogeneous, one system.
Yeah.
So volunteers, this is another call for more volunteers. And if you want to be a part of something really cool, you can build a sport of drone racing. That's what I do.
Well, what it would take to do that, right? It would take like somebody testing with multiple timers running different software and just run thousands of laps with different quads, like a lot of different quads, to know that we were getting the same data.
Yeah.
And then that all would have to be compiled and then reviewed by the team, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I know that some of the guys are using the FPV trackside product, and they've held races that had, decently large prize purses, right? So there's money on the line. It's not a fun fly, and we've attended a few of those races, and I don't think there was any dispute on like people arguing over who would get the money based on if their accuracy of the timing system. So at least for those racers at those races, they were willing to accept it. And some of those prize purses may have been close to what would be given at, say, a champs or something like that.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Like it works for one-off, and you can use any timing system for one-off. But the question was, like, how do we use it for GQ? And I think Chris's point there was like, okay, if you use rotor hazard and a homemade timer at this chapter, and you use the emergent RC and live time at this chapter, then like, how do you know that those two laps recorded were the same? And I mean, like, I had never actually heard that myself as to why we couldn't do it. I thought it was a sponsorship thing, or just that nobody had put the time in to make us be able to like accept the results for MultiGP. I thought that those were the barriers that I was going to hear from Chris, but that I never even considered.
No one can afford exclusive sponsorship at MultiGP.
Yeah.
Right. If you want, if they want to, they could buy exclusive sponsorship, but it would be so ridiculously expensive because since MultiGP, I want MultiGP to reflect the community.
Yeah.
We would never force anybody to do that. So it's more just about ensuring accuracy and not having someone to sit down and say, okay, let's first come up with a plan. Here's how we're going to test the multiple systems against each other. Then we're going to actually really go test it. Because one of the parts that gets frustrating here is there's a lot of really intelligent people in this sport. But many times they want to tell you something, but that's wonderful. I still want to see the data. I believe you.
Right.
Still got to see the data.
Yep.
Still want to do the testing. I mean, I learned that early on trying to diagnose video problems because I would go out to fix video problems, and it was me, like 20 other really smart people. And everybody wanted to say something. So finally, I just have to say, shut up. We're going to do this, and it's going to work or not. Just test, repeat, test, repeat, test, repeat till we figured it out. So it might occur. There is some other things behind the scenes that would be more of a question you'd want to ask Roger, which is how does the Lifetime has done a lot of work to integrate with MultiGP, right? The amount of work that Lifetime has put into supporting drone racing, they'll never get the money back, right? Even if all the chapters bought the maximum subscription of Lifetime won't ever get their money back for the amount of work they're already putting in. And they continue to help, but a lot of it makes it easy to push the data into the MultiGP system so that way it can rank with everybody else. And that's not an exclusivity. If one of the other, if we proved that the other technology was equivalent and it wasn't going to provide different data, and then they built that bridge, we would use it too.
Nice. Yeah, we got Roger in the chat. Roger's saying it's more than just timing accuracy. There are other attributes to consider. Is there a cloud-based mechanism to see every lap like Lifetime provides? Is there a way to lock settings? And then a little further down, he says, also there needs to be the ability to provide support to all the chapters running races. So, I mean, I guess like, providing the data to the back end of MultiGP seems like the easier part than, well, that seems like an overcomable barrier, right? We got a lot of smart people to do that, but like collecting the data and then making sure that it's right, while that's also easy, and there are also a lot of people out there to do it, like that needs to be done before having the back end done does us any good, I feel like.
Yep. You know what else is easy? Is inviting 64 pilots and then inviting the rest, but it is more work.
Yeah.
And it all adds up.
Yeah. And I have like a love and hate relationships with Lifetime because I think their software is a little bit overcomplicated. But what I really appreciate is that when I started using Lifetime for the local chapter, they were there like on the Facebook chat with me, like the guy from Lifetime just helping me live, to figure out what's happening on the race day. And I think that's kind of priceless. I was like, wow, you do that for like whatever, like $15 a month? Like that's kind of crazy.
So Brandon and Corey, the guys behind Lifetime, they're so passionate, right? And I respect people who are passionate about whatever it is that they do, and they've given a lot, and they don't do it, they're not doing it like this, right? Like, where's my money? Like, okay, I'll do it, but give me money. So I respect that. I like seeing that kind of passion with people. So I'm very fond of the help and support that they've given. But at the same time, I don't think it would be right for us to do. Same reason why MultiGP doesn't have a gigantic web store, right? I could easily, with all the people who do drone racing, we could easily be the store you go to buy your drone stuff, right? But that's not reflective of the community, because the drone companies are part of the community, right?
Yep.
Evan and Mondo, they're part of this community. So would MultiGP then be supporting that community if we're like just their competitor in the community? If that makes sense. So it's more about building a platform where other things can happen inside of it.
Yeah. Yeah, Team Germanov says FPV sim timer is do-it-yourself and only $100 in parts for 8-way. So I guess the first step required is just to verify that timer against Lifetime. Like, I guess put them both under the Stargate and just watch the whole day
if we got a couple of chapters out there doing that in a similar way, right, all following the same testing format over a season or between now and the start of next season, we could collect a lot of data. And I always see people on Facebook. I mean, I've seen when we put ask out for questions, I saw people ask this question. I've seen it asked a lot of times before in the past. So I know that there are motivated people out there that would want to be a part of doing that checking. So, I mean, it's sort of like a call. We've been kind of cool with this little, podcast thing, whatever it is we're doing here right now. In every episode, we've been able to make stuff move, right? Like we made stuff happen a little bit. It seems, and so now there's an opportunity out there. Something can move here with everybody listening, that we can start collecting this data. And that's the first step to really seeing.
One thing we need at MultiGP, that we don't have, is to put someone in charge of these types of special projects, right? So plan it, meet with the people, come up with a plan on how we're going to execute it, and then see it through to the very end. Because a lot of people will come to MultiGP and they mean well, and they're like, hey, why don't you do this and this and this and this, and then you could do this and then do this thing over there, and then if you do this, then this will happen. Yeah. Cool. I still got to get ready for the event I'm leaving for later today. And that's a wonderful idea, but I don't have the time to do it, right? You only get things done if you actually will compartmentalize what you have to do and finish it, not continue to chase all these loose ends, right? And for me, that has been a big part in my just business development as a whole. I'm the type of person who I love all the shiny things. I want all the shiny things. Like I want this cool piece of technology and this cool piece of technology, but then I wouldn't even use those pieces of technology. So instead, I find effectiveness by having one thing and getting it all the way done, and then going on to the next thing and getting it all the way done. So it's not that I don't want to pursue all these other wonderful special projects, but I already have projects, and the rest of the team already has projects. So if we brought in somebody who said, hey, I'll take on some special projects. Okay, cool. Let's plan special project number 1. Let's execute special project number 1. Bring us back results of project number 1. Here's the results. And then we would probably implement a change, such as if the result of the project said, yes, we can use rotor hazard and these other things, now we're going to use rotor hazard and the other things. But I would rather us have a successful GQ season with successful and accurate data than have it blow up in the middle of the season because we didn't take the proper steps to plan and test it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if there were, if you called to question the GQ list, we found out halfway through that everybody that used XYZ timer software, their stuff had to be thrown out. That really would ruin the season because a lot of people maybe wouldn't be able to go back and try again or whatever it may be. So definitely we have to protect like the integrity of the season.
Think about the organizer, man. How crappy would it feel as a chapter organizer if your GQ's data, you guys ran it, and we threw all your data out because of a discrepancy, right? We wouldn't want to do that, but we might have to. That's the reason we have a rule book, because a lot of times I go to the rule book, I'm like, dude, it's the rule book. Because whether I like you or I don't like you, the rule is the rule.
Makes it easier.
So guys, we're coming close to 2 hours mark. I understand we have 2 more hours. But there are a few questions we haven't covered yet, from the list, right? Let's.
So I mean, I can maybe curate them a bit. There's definitely one that I want to go to. So I mean, as you're an entrepreneur, Chris. Do you have some short bite-sized advice for young people out there wanting to start their own businesses or wanting to work for themselves? You have any sort of thoughts or life advice about somebody wanting to take their future into their own hands?
I think that it's one of the wisest things that I've seen, if you really boil down to what it is, can be found in FPV. When you call yourself a ship pilot, okay? You want to be a business person, understand you're a shit business person. I'm a shit business person, right? Yeah. And what I mean is, if you think you know what you're doing, that's why you're going to fail. Because you will never find the reasons you're failing. You will never see the failures in yourself, but you have to disassociate you, like who you are and what you're capable of, right? For me, I love finding my mistakes, because if I can't find a mistake, I can't fix a mistake. I can't improve myself. So there's a couple of ways you can become successful in business. You can do it by doing it the hard way, which is just think you know what you're doing and go try to do it. And then you'll need to fail a bunch of times. That's how I did it. A lot of failures. You got to fail a lot. The first thing that you've got to learn through those failures is that the hard work is more important than what you know and how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're not going to be the guy who's going to outwork your competitor, you're not going to win. So all this stuff of find a niche, work smarter, not harder. That's great. Work really hard so you can't work any harder, then start working smarter so you can work even more. That's what it's really about. The rest of that is just BS so they can get you to buy something. If you want to do it the smart way, if you want to be successful in business, the smart way is decide what you want to do. Go to someone who's already successful at that and tell them, hey, you're in the plumbing business. I think it'd be kind of neat to have a good, big business that does plumbing. I want to learn about plumbing, and I'm looking for someone who will mentor me to be a good plumber. Right? One of my first mentors in life owned a roofing company, and a great, important mentor to who I am today. And I owe a lot to that individual person. And because I was smart enough at the time to listen and to learn, I gained years of knowledge in a short period of time. So people who are successful in business will respect you if you're hardworking and you're passionate and you come to them and ask for advice. Not everybody. Some people are just mean. Some people are just selfish. Not everyone is going to be your friend or your ally, but there are plenty of people out there who will help you to get ahead, but only if you're first willing to help yourself. So if you've ever seen me at an event, you'll see me early in the morning and you'll see me there late at night. That's what it takes. If you see me in my business, there's been times I've worked 150 hours in a week. There's been times not because I want to necessarily, but because I've started something and it's necessary to finish it. And I could make a million excuses like, well, everybody goes home at 5 o'clock. Yeah, but is the thing I'm trying to get done that's due at a certain time done, or is it not done? It's not done. I have to stay because I committed to doing that. That's what happens at I/O many times. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm freaking tired. My feet have been wet all day. But guess what? All the pilots are going to be here tomorrow. So I got to get this course set up. Right? That was one of the hardest things I had to learn in business, because I was one of those kids who, was in all the honors classes and got good grades, and I didn't have to study very hard. So I thought, hey, I'm smart. I'm going to be successful. Nope. It doesn't work like that. Literally, what actually is that because it was so easy for me and I didn't have to work that hard, I had to learn and value that hard work. The people that I would look down on because I thought I was smarter than them or more talented than them, and they would kick my butt. I had to humble myself enough to realize that their characteristics are more valuable than my characteristics. So I was lucky with the things that I had, but they were what I really needed to be, right? I needed to have those kind of characteristics.
Yep.
So the other advice that I would give you is, if you try to get money for money's sake, you might succeed, because you won't, if all you care about is money and you don't care about how you affect others, you can throw that step out of the window and it's easier to make money, but you won't feel good. You'll feel terrible. You'll feel good for a little bit of time, and then you will feel terrible afterwards. So I have seen some of the wealthiest people that I've ever met are some of the most miserable people. And they're the type that will literally step on you to get $1. So you won't feel rewarded, and it won't fill whatever void you think you're looking to fill, if that's the way you go about it.
That's so hard to believe for me. Like that rich people are not happy. I don't know. Like, I understand if you have problems with the family, then it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. You have problems with the family. But if we take this, like, the same guy with the same, let's say, good family and nice friends, one is like $1 billion and one is $10. Like, well, $1 billion must be more happier.
I mean, if I look back to some of the happiest times in my life, it's when I was ignorant to many of the things that I'm not ignorant to now. Right. And don't get me wrong. There's a lot of joy that comes from not worrying about how you're going to pay rent, not worrying about how your cell phone's going to be. Those stresses in life, right? You should strive to escape those. But in the process of doing it, don't try to live in a $1 million house, right? Unless you have $100 million and it doesn't matter. Right. So often people need to have like the newest car and the nicest house, and all they do is they take that little stress that they have that they don't like, and they keep it forever, because they just keep trying to expand their life and their expenses to never ever become free. And that's really what you should aim for, is to get to the point to where you become free. I love to work, but I hope to never go back to a place in my life where I have to work. Yeah. If that makes sense.
So a little bit related question. Is MultiGP your favorite creation? 2 minutes.
I'm the most, besides my children, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's what father fair. Would that's not fair. Be surprised to see that.
Right.
I would say I'm the most proud of MultiGP, of everything that I've done. Because of how much it's affected so many other people, right? There are so many friendships that I feel MultiGP helped to create. right? Even some of my friendships, right? I have so much fun with you guys at these events. And if it wasn't for MultiGP, if it wasn't for all this effort, those things wouldn't have occurred, right? That guy right there, AA. I would not know AA if it wasn't for this. And, you know, we've had some really amazing times working together through drone racing. So for sure, I'm definitely proud of it.
Nice.
And
nice.
I think we have one more question. Like number 16, someone was selecting it very hard in our list. Who was that? Johnny 5? I think Johnny 5 fell off, disconnected. Yeah,
we got him.
I hear him.
No. Okay, we can hear him.
Huh. I can't hear him anymore. Oh, I think he closed that, or his mobile phone closed that.
Either way, we can hear him. It's okay.
Yeah, all right, Neil, can you please read the question number 16?
Well, no, we can hear him.
Well, the live stream does not hear.
The stream can't hear him. Okay,
I can't hear them, the live stream can't hear.
Bad. All right, so every major sport, baseball, soccer, basketball, all have some version of a little league where children can start playing and training at a young age. Missouri Montessori School the Montessori School that holds the Ice Storm race seems to have one of the most advanced youth programs in the country. How do we replicate more programs like that?
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot that if you're part of MultiGP in the the regular MultiGP that you don't see that we do. We have an entire scholastic side, right? There's the MultiGP STEM Alliance. The STEM Alliance supports elementary school, middle school, high school. Last year, we had over 125 schools just in Florida racing drones, and we use it as an educational program. We did the high school drone racing championships and middle school drone racing championships at AUVSI this year, which is the largest drone event there is. It's the biggest trade show of drones, and we held those. Every year we run and assist with the CDRA, which is a college drone racing association. So we are already very involved with school. We have a partner called Drones in Schools, and we're pushing a lot of that. And we would love to see as much excitement and enthusiasm like we do in Milwaukee. And we do. There's places like there's a school down in South Florida. There's like 40 drone racing teams in one school.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they brought an army of people to the championships. So there is a lot of this starting to happen in the STEM related stuff. And one thing that I'm proud of what we do is a lot of these STEM projects for schools, they cost schools $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to get involved. Whereas, usually we can help a school get started for like $1,200. So
wow.
We just want to get it out there. And we raised, I don't even remember, a ton of money last year. And all the money we raised just went to buying drone kits for those schools. So, there's a lot of that we're doing right now.
Nice. Yeah, we got to get the kids in there. Well, I guess, thanks a bunch for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Us, too much over. Ivan, you have any more questions?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I just wanted to say, of course, thanks for joining. And honestly, I had no idea. I thought MultiGP at least even in terms of money. I knew you don't earn money from MultiGP, but I didn't know you spend that much of money. And big respect for all you're doing, and not only for money, but because if not MultiGP, I would imagine that there would be no racing in the United States, or like very little racing,
Yeah.
And we should be very, I am very grateful for all that MultiGP is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I'm similarly grateful. I think, like you said, I think you should be proud of what you created there. It really has touched and changed a lot of lives. I mean, you talked about creating friendships. Ivan's my best friend, and I wouldn't know him without MultiGP.
Exactly.
And, and so I've got friends all over the country, all over the globe that I wouldn't know without MultiGP. And so, I mean, it has changed my life. And I know it's changed many more. And so I just appreciate your vision, appreciate your support, appreciate everything you've done to bring this sport to the world. And yeah, it's really a special thing.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, you guys are thanking me like you're not a part of it, but you're chapter organizers, and that is what makes MultiGP. If it wasn't for chapter organizers, MultiGP would have never got going. So definitely thank you to all the chapter organizers who are tuning into your show. Thank you for all the volunteers who've given their time and their energy and their efforts, right? If it wasn't for your passion and your desire to be a part of this, we wouldn't have built this sport. But I think we're just now getting started. We're returning to what is important for making drone racing grow. And if we can reignite the excitement to growing those chapters and bringing new pilots into the sport, I think we're just getting started.
Nice. Well, we look forward to seeing where it's going. Thanks a bunch, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna shut down. Well, Johnny 5, I think you hear Johnny 5, but not the live stream. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. Thanks a lot from Johnny 5 too.
Thanks, John.
Yeah,
and thanks to Johnny 5 too. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks everyone in the chat. I saw Cole was desperately trying to make me a volunteer through the whole chat like many times.
There you go, Cole. There you go.
And Cole is a volunteer. He brings his
Cole's a rock star.
Yeah, he brings a measuring gear. He's a land survey and brings measuring gear and measures all the MultiGP tracks with the precision of like Neil's hair. Or I wanted to say something different, but
the skill matters, because like back here at the top of the shelf, I've got some similar technology, but we just don't know how to use it. Cole shows up and he just does it like magic, right?
Yeah,
it's
Cole knows what's up. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Y'all have a good one.
Yeah.